A very good evening. You're watching Prime Time News on TV1. Bringing you the news this evening, I'm Steven Machado. We first start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Ask for S-Lawn Polygon by name.
Preparing for the global fuel crisis. Fuel distribution via QR system begins. Fuel distribution to continue uninterrupted. Assurance given by distributors. No fuel for cans or bottles. Filling station owners warn.
කෑන් වලට බෝතල් ඒව අරගෙන එන්න එපා. QR කේතිය තිබුණත් අපි කෑන් වලට බෝතල් වලට ඉන්ධන නිකුත් කරන්නේ නැහැ.
Law to be strictly enforced against illegal fuel hoarding. Identify alternative methods to face challenges. President issues instructions. Why was USAID money used to topple our government? Namal Rajapaksa questions US President Trump. In India, a treasonous statement endangering the country and its people by shattering international relations amidst a world war. Lawyers for Truth and Justice respond. Katwana Sando clinches Sri Lanka's Got Talent Season 3 crown. Dharma Yuddha 2 makes history with record-breaking box office revenues.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Ask for S-Lawn Polygon by name.
On to your top story tonight. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation today announced the re-implementation of the QR fuel distribution system in light of the ongoing war situation in the Middle East and the possibility of a future fuel crisis. Hashini Patirana brings you more of the very latest details. Hashini?
Yes, thank you, Steven, and a very good evening to all our viewers who have joined us this evening. Now, in view of the current situation in the Middle East and the potential risks that may arise in the future, the government of Sri Lanka has made the national fuel pass system using QR codes mandatory for all vehicles when obtaining fuel. Now, accordingly, the QR system came into effect island-wide from 6 a.m. today under the orders of the Ministry of Power and Energy. Let's take a look.
More than 2 weeks have passed since the outbreak of the war in the Middle East. Although Iran, Israel and the United States are directly involved in the conflict, several other countries in the region have also been affected. These include Iraq, Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates and Oman.
Now, amidst this crisis, crude oil prices in the global markets soared following the decision to close the Strait of Hormuz. This was recorded as the highest value since 2022, reaching the $119 mark.
Amid the impact of rising global oil prices, fuel shortages were reported in the country at the beginning of March. However, the government maintained that it would ensure a continuous fuel supply. On the 9th of March, fuel prices were increased in anticipation of further increases in global crude oil prices due to the Middle East conflict. Considering the evolving situation and the potential risks posed by the conflict, the Ministry of Energy announced that the QR-based national fuel pass system would be made mandatory for all vehicles when obtaining fuel from today. Accordingly, the amount of fuel each vehicle can obtain per week under the QR system has been limited to a specific quota. Under the QR system, motorcycles 5 litres, three-wheelers and motor cars 15 litres, vans and special purpose vehicles 40 litres, tractors 25 litres, lorries 200 litres, buses 60 litres. These quotas apply per week. Those who have already registered for the QR system can continue using the service through the fuelpass.gov.lk website, provided that the vehicle ownership and registered phone number remain unchanged. Meanwhile, owners of newly registered vehicles or those whose vehicle ownership or phone numbers have changed have been advised to re-register via the fuelpass.gov.lk website. The Department of Government Information stated that authorities are currently identifying individuals who have recently purchased vehicles or changed their contact details and are working to resolve related issues as soon as possible. But why was the QR system reintroduced at this time for fuel distribution? This is the explanation given by the chairman of the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation, D.A. Rajapaksa.
අපිට තෙල් තියෙනවා අපි ඇනවුම් කරපුවා අපිට නිශ්චිත වෙච්ච තියෙනවා ලබන මාසේ අවසානයේ වෙන තෙක් කියලා. නමුත් අපි කණ්ඩායම් දෙකක් දැක්කා.
I believe we had to introduce the QR code because everyone is aware of the current global situation. Supply chains have been disrupted and there is a risk regarding the arrival of fuel stocks. We clearly stated that we have sufficient fuel until the end of next month. However, over the past few days, we observed an unnecessary spike in fuel usage. Essentially, there are two groups, those who use fuel normally and a group of racketeers. Seeing the global situation and what is happening in other countries, this latter group has started hoarding fuel in anticipation of a crisis. Considering all these factors, the government decided to introduce the QR code. What I have to tell to the public is that, as of now, the fuel required for your normal consumption has already been allocated. Your weekly fuel quota is set. Therefore, there is no need to panic, get stressed, or wait in long queues to pump fuel. We can implement this systematically. We do not know when the war will end. Although we have fuel until the end of next month, if we don't face this together as a nation and as a collective group, we do not know where we will end up. Therefore, the government has now secured your fuel requirements and provided the necessary data. Now, it is up to the citizens to contribute. What needs to be done now is for everyone to use these stocks very carefully as a team to move forward.
බාගන අනවශ්‍ය ගමන් පුළුවන් තරම් අඩු කරලා සහයෝගයෙන් කටයුතු කරන්න කියන ඉල්ලීම තමයි මේ අවස්ථාවේ කරන්න තියෙන්නේ.
This morning, following the announcement that the QR-based system would be implemented, the system was observed in operation at fuel stations across the island. The public shared views on the reintroduction of the QR-based system, stating that it was implemented at the right time in anticipation of possible risks arising from the ongoing conflict in the Middle East.
QR ක්‍රමය මං හිතන්නේ ආපහු වෙන එක හොඳයි කියලා මං හිතනවා. ක්‍රමවේදය ඉතින් වාතාවරණයත් එක්ක ඉතින් සාධාරණයි. චුට්ටක් දවස් දෙකක් දෙන්න ඕනේ මිනිසුන්ට පොඩ ඒකට හැඩ ගැහෙන්න. නැත්නම් මේ අමාරු ශනිකව ගත්ත තීරණයක් හින්දා ලෝකේ තියෙන තත්ත්වයට දැන් පොඩ්ඩක් ඉදිරියම අපි QR ක්‍රමයට ගියප එක හොඳයි කියලා මං හිතන්නේ. නැත්නම් ප්‍රශ්නයක් ඇයිනේ. දැන් ගානට ගෙනියන්න පුළුවන් අපිට. ඒතර දැන් මේ දවස්වල ලෝකේ තියෙන අර්බුදයත් එක්ක මේ QR ක්‍රමයට අනේක හොඳයි. මොකද ඒකට හැමදේම සමතුලිතතාවයක් එක්ක බෙදලා යන ඔක්කොටම
ආණ්ඩුව පැත්තට අපි කරකාල වැඩක් නැහැ. මම අපි පොඩ්ඩක් ඉවසලා යන්න ඕනේ මේ යුද්ධය ඉවර වෙනකම්. QR එක අනිවාර්යෙන් එන්න ඕනේ. නැත්තම් මදිනේ. QR එකෙන් බැලන්ස් කරොත් තමයි මේ පොඩ්ඩක් දවස් යන්න පුළුවන්.
මේ පෝලිං ඉන්න කට්ටිය විතර නෙමෙයි මේ හැම දෙනාට පොලිසියෙන් දාලා දෙන එක ගොඩක් හොඳයි. පොලිසියෙන් නෙන්දා අපිට කරදරයක් යන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක ඇවිල්ලා දාලා පෝලිං මේ කියන්නේ මෙහි විතර නෙමෙයි මුළු හැම රටකම තියෙනවා දැන්. ඒ හින්දා මේක ලොකුවට ගණන් ගන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. අපි හැම දෙයකට අපි මූණ දෙන්න ඕනේ. අවංකවම තමයි QR කෝඩ් දාන එක. මම හිතනවා මේ හොඳයි කියලා. අපිට ඩොලර් නැතුව තෙල් නැතුව නෙවෙයිනේ. මේ තෙල් ටික බෙදා ගන්න බැරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් මෙතන තියෙන්නේ. ඒ හින්දා සාමකාමීව පොඩ්ඩක් මේ අවස්ථාවේ දරා ගන්න සිද්ධ වෙනවා. මාත් හයර් දුර තමයි ජීවත් වෙන්නේ. ලැබෙන්න ඕන ප්‍රමාණය ලැබෙනවා. අනවශ්‍ය විදිහට තෙල් ටික පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ නැහැ ඒගොල්ලෝ. QR එක ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා නම් ඒ ලිමිටඩ් තෙල් අදලා ඔක්කොටම තෙල් ටික සමමම ගහගත්තා. නැත්නම් කාර් වලට වෑන් වලටයි ලිටර් 25 ගාවට පස්සේ බයික් තලු කරන් තමයි තියන්න වෙන්නේ. QR ක්‍රමයේ හොඳයි ලිමිට් එකක් තියෙනවනේ. ඇතුලේ විතරක් වෙච්ච ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෙමෙයි. ඒතර මේක ඇවිල්ලා QR ක්‍රමයෙන් වෙන්නේ හැමෝටම එක විදිහට තෙල් බෙදෙනවා. අනවශ්‍ය වෝලියම් තමයි මේ දවස් ටිකේම ඇති කරලා තිබෙන්නේ. ඉතින් මේකෙදි QR ක්‍රමයේදී මම හිතන අතර හොඳ ක්‍රමයක්.
බොහොම හොඳයි වැඩේ කරන එක. ඉතින් අපිට රස්තාවක් කරගන්න මේ පොලිමේ ගිහලා බඩු ගන්නවා. ඇත්තම QR ක්‍රමය හොඳයි.
The president of the All Ceylon Filling Station Owners Association, Kumara Rajapaksa, explained the procedure followed when issuing fuel under the QR system.
අපි කියනවා පාරිභෝගික ජනතාවට කෑන් වලට
This is to inform the public not to bring cans or bottles to collect fuel. Even if you have a QR code, we will not issue fuel into cans or bottles. The reason is that when you comply with the QR system, we can identify your vehicle through that code. Therefore, according to the current regulations, fuel is issued only to the vehicle. If fuel is issued to a can, it can be used by someone else. Even if someone brings another person's QR code using a different vehicle, our pump operators will not issue fuel if that vehicle doesn't match. Therefore, I kindly request the public to come with their own vehicle and their own QR code to obtain fuel.
එඩිතර තීරණ අරන් තියෙනවා මේ අවස්ථාවේදී රජයේ වැඩපිළිවෙල යටතේ ඉතා ක්‍රමානුකූලව තෙල් මහජනතාවට නිකුත් කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි කියලා අපි හිතනවා මහජනතාවට කිසි බයක් ඇති වෙන විදියක් නැහැ.
Now, due to the ongoing crisis situation, many countries around the world are currently facing shortages in fuel and gas. Now, to manage this situation, governments are implementing a wide range of measures, including rationing fuel and limiting excessive consumption. Here is a closer look at how countries globally are responding to this energy crisis. The ongoing Middle East conflict has pushed several countries around the world into fuel and gas crises. To manage the situation, governments in neighboring and distant nations, including India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia, New Zealand and Australia, have taken a series of precautionary measures. India is currently facing both a fuel and a domestic gas shortage. To address household gas supply disruptions, the central government has allocated an additional 48,000 litres of kerosene to each state government of India. Gas supplies for hotels and restaurants have been restricted to 20%, with authorities advising alternative fuel use such as coal. India maintains around 10 days' worth of emergency oil reserves. According to foreign media, despite calls from the International Energy Agency to release reserves to stabilize the global market, India has prioritized domestic needs under its India First policy, rejecting the IEA's request. To secure safe passage of Indian oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz, the Indian government held high-level talks with Iran. Accordingly, two major Indian LPG vessels, Shivalik and Nanda Devi, successfully navigated the Strait of Hormuz under the direct protection and supervision of the Indian Navy within the past 24 hours, which is from the night of the 14th of March to the 15th of March. Foreign media reported even though the Strait of Hormuz has been largely restricted due to the ongoing tensions with the United States, Israel and Iran due to Iran's friendly relations with India, Iranian authorities have reportedly allowed Indian ships to continue passing through the Strait of Hormuz. These ships are now en route to Gujarat's Mundra and Kandla ports, expected to arrive on the 16th and 17th of March. Meanwhile, 22 other Indian-flagged vessels remain in the Persian Gulf, and discussions between the Indian government and the Indian Navy continue to ensure their safe passage. Among these vessels are 4 oil tankers and several gas carriers. In Pakistan, to manage fuel shortages, government employees are now working 4 to 5 days a week, with the remaining days conducted from home. The government of Pakistan has advised all shops and event halls to be closed by 8 p.m. to conserve electricity and fuel. Meanwhile, in line with the conditions set by the International Monetary Fund and in an effort to reduce government spending, the Pakistani government has decided to further reduce fuel subsidies on petrol and diesel. The fuel shortage has also made it difficult to operate power plants in Pakistan. As a result, the government plans to introduce daily power cuts of 6 to 8 hours in urban areas and up to 12 hours in rural areas to manage the ongoing energy crisis. The government of Bangladesh has limited working hours for public and private institutions from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. and all commercial complexes and shops must close after 8 p.m. Several diesel-powered electricity plants have been temporarily shut down, with the planned rolling blackouts of 2 to 3 hours per day in certain regions. As a major fuel subsiding country, Indonesia has moved to reduce government expenditure amid the crisis. Subsidized fuel for luxury vehicles has been limited, and prices for non-subsidized fuel types have been raised by 10 to 12%. The The government of Australia has increased domestic diesel and petrol reserves to prepare for emergencies. By mid-March, fuel companies are required to maintain at least 28 to 30 days worth of reserves. Authorities are also focusing on reducing transport costs for essential goods and agricultural machinery by temporarily lowering fuel taxes or providing relief on diesel.
New Zealand.
Rising fuel prices due to the Middle East conflict prompted the government of New Zealand to reduce fuel taxes. As another measure to conserve fuel, discourage the use of private vehicles and to encourage rationing, the government of New Zealand has reduced fares on all public transportation services by 50%. In addition, fuel import companies have been required to maintain domestic reserves of petrol and diesel, sufficient for at least 28 days to ensure supply stability. Now, similarly, many of our neighboring countries across the world are adopting to various measures to face this emerging crisis. Now, as for Sri Lanka, our authorities initially took steps to manage the situation by increasing prices. However, now the QR code system has been reintroduced with the primary goal of limiting consumption. Despite these restrictions on consumption, the fuel stocks required for daily usage until the end of April have already been ordered. Now, it was against this backdrop that a special discussion was held today, presided over by the President to address the prevailing situation.
A ship carrying 35,000 metric tons of fuel is scheduled to arrive in the country tomorrow. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation stated that this vessel contains both petrol and diesel. Additionally, several more fuel shipments are scheduled to arrive within this month. Accordingly, the CPC noted that fuel stocks required until the end of April have already been ordered. The chairman further stated that these fuel stocks would be procured based on the prices prevailing at the time of unloading. All relevant shipments are arriving in Sri Lanka from India and Singapore. Meanwhile, in light of the conflict situation arising in the Middle East, a discussion was held today at the Presidential Secretariat between President Anura Kumara Dissanayake, ministry secretaries and heads of institutions regarding the issues emerging in maintaining essential services properly. During this meeting, particular attention was focused on sectors such as health, education, industry, agriculture and fisheries, where the respective ministry secretaries briefed the President on the updated fuel requirements within each field. Considering the matters raised, the President stated that the possibility of maintaining essential fuel reserves regionally for sectors such as health should be further explored. Furthermore, he instructed the secretaries to look into the possibility of performing duties from home and to report back on the matter. Additionally, stating that it is impossible to provide prior assumptions regarding situations that may arise in the future, the President highlighted the necessity of being prepared to face any forthcoming situation and the need to further streamline the currently introduced QR system for that purpose. In this regard, the President also gave instructions to rectify the existing shortcomings in the current QR system and to update it as quickly as possible, emphasizing that new emerging situations may be constantly monitored and observed, and that rather than taking separate decisions for each sector, alternative methods relevant to the existing challenge should be identified and implemented as a whole. The President instructed them to intervene swiftly with mutual understanding.
We can only face this challenge if we all come together as one community. We must all understand that this problem, we must all understand this situation. Now, we urge the communities not to believe in misinformation, false news or untruthful statements. Always ignore fake social media posts, information, SMSs and even fake WhatsApp messages that you receive. And you as a responsible citizen must only trust the verified information that you receive. Now, this is the moment where we must face this situation with the utmost responsibility. There is definitely, undeniably, a challenge here. None of us can predict exactly which way the war in the Middle East will turn to. Therefore, it is vital that we face this challenge responsibly as a nation. Now, at this time, it is the responsibility of all of us as responsible Sri Lankans, as responsible citizens, to remain calm and adopt to this QR system that has been re-implemented and reintroduced by the government as a countermeasure for the ongoing crisis in the Middle East.
When systematically rebuilding a fallen economy, we must pay special attention to the impact on that economy and its continuity. Therefore, as the government, we request you to adhere to the QR code introduced to limit fuel consumption to a certain extent. The actual expectation here is to manage the country's consumption levels. If not, we will have to face a much greater crisis in the future. This is a moment to act thinking not just of oneself, but of the entire society and the country. It is a national responsibility. I appeal to all citizens to follow this QR system introduced by the government and obtain the necessary fuel for your daily life and livelihood without creating unnecessary queues at fuel stations. If anyone intentionally attempts to disrupt this peaceful situation by spreading false or malicious information, the government will not hesitate to enforce the law against them. This is a time when everyone must act with responsibility, whether it is for economic, business or fraudulent motives. If anyone tries to sabotage this peace, we are prepared to implement the law through the police. As a government, we are making every effort to manage these affairs without adversely affecting daily life. We consider any attempt to disrupt this as a harm done to the nation. Therefore, I urge you, please do not be misled by malicious information. The government and the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation will provide the necessary messages from time to time through the media. Trust those sources. Do not act based on false information from baseless origins. Iran and Israel traded strikes overnight while missiles and drone interceptions have been reported in Gulf states. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump says Iran wants to make a deal to end the war, but he doesn't want to yet because the terms are not good enough. Situation in Israel.
Israel and Iran continued to exchange strikes overnight as part of the broader conflict that began with coordinated US-Israel operations against Iran. In Israel, cities including Holon have reported damage after incoming missiles or drones struck residential areas, overturning vehicles and punching holes in buildings. As the war with Iran entered its third week, Israeli media reported today that Israel has also approved an $827 million emergency budget allocation for military purposes. Israeli media went on to note that it will be used for security purchases and to address urgent needs without providing further details. Meanwhile, Israel's health ministry said 108 injured people have been taken to hospitals as a result of the conflict with Iran in the past 24 hours, according to the Times of Israel newspaper.
Situation in Iran.
Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said in an interview published today that Tehran has ample evidence US bases in the Middle East have been used to target the Islamic Republic. Araghchi told Arabic language news outlet Al Arabi Al Jadid, quote, "We have ample evidence of this. Satellite imagery and electronic surveillance demonstrate that US bases in this region are being used for attacks," unquote, claiming that missiles have been launched from the UAE to attack Karg Island, a vital Iranian oil hub. He added that the war pitting his country against the United States and Israel would only end when Tehran can be certain it will not be restarted. Meanwhile, the captain of the Iranian women's football team, which played in the Asian Cup in Australia, has withdrawn her bid for asylum according to state media, making her the fifth member of the delegation to change her mind. Zahra Ganbari will in the next hours fly from Malaysia to Iran, according to the IRNA news agency. 3 players and 1 backroom staff member had already in previous days withdrawn their bids for asylum and travelled to Malaysia. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign minister denied today that Iran has targeted civilian or residential areas in the Middle East and said Tehran is ready to form a committee with its neighbours to investigate the responsibility for such strikes. Abbas Araghchi Baghchi's Telegram channel quoted him as saying in an interview with Al Arabi Al Jadid that Tehran was in communication with various Gulf capitals and would welcome any initiative that could guarantee a complete end to the US-Israeli war on Iran. Meanwhile, the IRGC said it launched 10 missiles and an unidentified number of drones against US forces at the UAE's Al Dhafra airbase, according to a statement carried by Iranian news agencies.
Situation in the Gulf nations.
Meanwhile, attacks on Gulf nations continue. Throughout the night, Saudi Arabia's defense ministry announced that it had taken down multiple Iranian drones over its territory, primarily near the capital Riyadh and in the eastern regions of the country. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia's Prince Sultan Air Base, or PSAB, at Al-Khaj, near the capital of Riyadh, has come under repeated missile and drone attack from Iran. The airbase is home to a number of US warplanes, with the Saudi Defense Ministry saying it has intercepted at least 10 drones in the Riyadh and eastern province regions. Iran's Fars news agency says it has fired a salvo missiles at the base. The United Arab Emirates announced that its air defense systems were responding to incoming missile and drone attacks from Iran. It comes after a fire raged at the port of Fujairah, home to a major oil export terminal on the country's east coast, following a drone strike on Saturday. The United Arab Emirates added that it has intercepted 4 further ballistic missiles and 6 drones fired from Iran. It also lists the total number of attacks it has intercepted since the conflict began at 298 ballistic missiles, 15 cruise missiles and 1,606 drones. UAE's Ministry of Defense said these attacks have resulted in 6 deaths and 142 minor and moderate injuries. Bahrain also announced that its sirens were sounding and urged residents to head to the nearest shelters. Bahrain's Interior Ministry said it has arrested 5 people for collecting and passing on sensitive information to Iran's IRGC. The government statement read that the men arrested were between the ages of 25 and 39, with one allegedly having received intensive training in Iranian Revolutionary Guard camps. Meanwhile, Kuwaiti Foreign Minister Sheikh Jarrah Jaber Al Ahmed Al Sabah has held a phone conversation with Qatari Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Sheikh Mohammed bin Abdul Rahman bin Jassim Al Thani. The two leaders discussed the escalating military tensions in the region resulting from Iran's reprehensible aggression against regional countries, as well as the serious repercussions and alarming consequences this entails for security and stability at both the regional and international levels. Al Sabah also held a similar conversation with Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan, the UAE's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs. Kuwait further announced its National Guard has downed 5 Iranian drones over the previous 24 hours. Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati will travel to Qatar today as part of a Gulf tour to discuss regional developments amid the Israeli-US war on Iran. The Foreign Ministry's statement did not mention which other Gulf states he was due to visit. As Iran has launched strikes at US targets across the Middle East, the US has urged its citizens to leave more than a dozen countries. The US Embassy in Baghdad has also issued a fresh warning for its citizens to leave Iraq after a missile hit the embassy building earlier on Saturday.
President Trump's latest response.
US President Donald Trump said yesterday that he is not ready to make a deal to end the war with Iran, despite the country's willingness to do so, because the terms aren't good enough yet, but declined to say what those terms would be. The US President, in an interview with NBC, also said that he is working with other countries on a plan to secure the Strait of Hormuz amid surges in global oil prices, and he dismissed Americans' concerns about rising gas prices since the US and Israel launched their joint military operation 2 weeks ago. US President Donald Trump has urged allies including the UK, France and China to join the US in sending warships to help secure the Strait of Hormuz after threats from Iran to block it.
National organizer of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Namal Rajapaksa said the SLPP government is overthrown in 2022 due to foreign interference. He made these remarks while speaking at the India Today conclave yesterday.
Perhaps you also see a future in Sri Lankan politics in the next 5 to 10 years. You come from a political family that has governed or ruled the country for many years as well. The recent 2022 crisis, many critics also say that it was Mr. Rajapaksa's presidency which brought this crisis, and in fact we have a video and an image that, if I can ask my producers to play on the screen, of how the crisis looked back then, and then we'll have a word from you. And these are the rioters, in fact, people getting into the government buildings, trying to create arson, riots. Many critics say that it was your family that was responsible for this crisis and the economic slowdown. How do you see this? And what lessons learned, in fact?
You cannot take 2022 crisis as a single entry point, but you have to go back and see what has happened before that, and also what happened in the region after that. So, 2005 to 15, we were fighting a war, but we were one of the fastest growing economies in the region, and we had single-digit in unemployment, interest rates were single-digit, and we were growing at a fourfold of our GDP. Everything was going smooth, but then there was a government change in 2015. Certain decisions were made by different governments that is acceptable because every government make their own policy changes. Then East attacks were there in Sri Lanka. Then we came with the pandemic. As you know, 80 other countries faced a similar crisis after the pandemic, economical challenges. Then the 2022 Sri Lankan crisis came into place. And we strongly believe there was an outside hand operating in Sri Lanka to make sure that there is a regime change or government change on an undemocratical way, which we have seen in Bangladesh, which we have seen in Nepal, which we have seen in the region. So it's a different form of regime change. You can either bomb or you can either do it in another way.
So what's common? Who's the outside hand? Let's be clear, Mr. Rajapaksa. Your government, your leadership was credited with ending the ethnic war that had plagued Sri Lanka for more than 2 decades. Your family was also accused of serious corruption, of very, very serious corruption at the cost of impoverishing your country. So one of the two things, both could be right. You know, y'all ended the war, but the Rajapaksas were also accused of becoming authoritarian and totally corrupt. What will you tell the people of this country when they hear?
You asked me what
these were the two narratives.
You asked me what would I ask from President Trump, right? So I asked him why did USAID fund? Why did he make the statement of USAID funding in regime change in our region? It was made by President Donald Trump once he became the president about funding for regime change in our region. As to corruption, yes.
You're blaming the United States for regime change in Sri Lanka.
Not me. Donald Trump, president himself, has blamed USAID for that on his own statement when he became the president.
Fishing in troubled waters.
අපි දන්නවා මේ වෙනකොට ජාත්‍යන්තර මට්ටමින් ලෝක මට්ටමින් මේ ජාත්‍යන්තර සබඳතා තියෙන ඉතාමත්.
We know that on the international stage, global relations are currently in a very delicate state. At a time like this, anyone expressing opinions on international matters must be extremely careful, regardless of whether they are part of the ruling party or the opposition. The international community often interprets the statements of legislators or parliamentarians as representing the official stance of the country. Even members of the opposition or those from smaller remnant parties need to exercise caution when sharing their views. Despite internal disagreements or criticism of international measures and organizations, Sri Lankan parliamentarians, both government and opposition, generally maintain a neutral and positive approach in international forums. They avoid making statements that could create conflict with other countries. However, we recently saw Namal Rajapaksa make a very serious statement during his visit to India, publicly claiming that USAID played a role in toppling his government. This is not just the opinion of an ordinary opposition member or a national list MP. He is a representative of the legislature, and his words are interpreted as reflecting the country's stance. By making such a statement, Namal Rajapaksa is taking a position no other politician in history, government or opposition, has taken. It is clear that in his pursuit of political gain, he is attempting to divide his own camp, even in the midst of an international crisis and unstable global situation. We urge Namal Rajapaksa and his supporters to recognize that at this critical moment, the people of this country expect all political leaders, whether in government or opposition, to act with wisdom. They should prioritize neutrality, reconciliation and safeguarding the country's stability, rather than engaging in rhetoric that could lead to economic sanctions or worsen the situation. While Namal Rajapaksa and his followers may seek political advantage, they do not have the right to jeopardize the country's politics, the lives of its people, or its economy in pursuit of personal ambitions.
නාමල් රාජපක්ෂලට බලය ගන්න කුවක දේශපාලනය තුළ ඒ අවශ්‍යතාවය තිබුණට නාමල් රාජපක්ෂලට කිසිම අයිතියක් නැහැ. මේ රටේ දේශපාලනය, මේ රටේ මේ ජන ජීවිතය, මේ රටේ ආර්ථිකය මේ විදියට අනතුරේ හෙරන්න.
Meanwhile, attorney Amilegdo Mahavatta expressed his views on the reasons for the collapse of the Sri Lankan economy.
දැන් අපි බලමුකෝ නාමල් රාජපක්ෂ කියනවා මේ US trade එකේ ආධාර හරහා ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ ආණ්ඩුව වැට්ටුවා. දැන් අපි නාමල් රාජපක්ෂලගෙන් අහනවා තමන්ගේ බාප්පා ජනාධිපති වෙලා ඉද්දි මේ රටේ අන්තිම ඩොලර් ටිකේ
when his uncle was president, were the country's sovereign bonds and final few dollars dispersed under the influence or direction of the United States. Furthermore, following advice from the country's neurologist and overturning the fertilizer policy in one move, were all of the country's crops from tea plants to paddy plants wiped out under the influence or direction of the United States. Are we to believe that Namal Rajapaksa made these decisions while sitting in Gotabaya Rajapaksa's former cabinet influenced by USAID? In reality, it was Namal Rajapaksa, Gotabaya and their cadres who benefited from the USAID. At the time, 70% of the country's economy was under Rajapaksa's family, 70% built on inefficiency and corruption, which ultimately led to the collapse of the country. People had to queue for gas, oil and other essentials. Electricity was out for 18 to 20 hours and medicines were unavailable. Those who could not contain themselves took to the streets, came to the Gulfways and overthrew them. And wasn't it the decisions of Namal Rajapaksa that drove people to act this way? Namal Rajapaksa, without bringing a single grain of fertilizer, they brought in ships of fertilizer from China and created a conflict with China. Namal Rajapaksa has, through these statements, proven himself to be someone who does not hesitate to endanger the lives, jobs and economy of over 22 million people, all for the sake of power. This is a very serious betrayal of this country at this moment of crisis. We would like to call it a historic betrayal.
මේ මොහොතේ මේ අර්බුදකාරී මොහොතේ මේ රටට කරන දැඩි බරපතල ද්‍රෝහි වීමක් ඒක ඓතිහාසිකගත ද්‍රෝහි වීමක් කියලා අපි නම් කරන්න කැමතියි.
News First with the people.
Katuwana Sando claimed the Sri Lanka's Got Talent Season 3 crown, opening the door to the international stage among the very best of the best.
Produced for the third time by Sirasa TV, the Got Talent franchise, which spans across 80 countries, once again provided a massive global stage for Sri Lankan talent. From every corner of the island, contestants showcased a diverse range of skills, including singing, dancing, magic, circus acts, gymnastics, pet performances, comedy, fire displays, and death-defying stunts. The grand finale of Sri Lanka's Got Talent Season 3 was held yesterday at the Stein Studios in Ratmalana, featuring 6 elite teams competing for the crown. Sudash Rajivan, a man challenging destiny through his sheer ability. Katuwana Sando, a powerhouse challenging the universe with strength, might and endurance. Valpola fireworks, captivating hearts with wonder and mesmerizing eyes with skill. Bhishma Janodya, the magician who deceives your eye.
Oh my goodness!
Nimantha Prasad, shaking the international stage with focus and expertise.
That is so cool.
That's amazing.
Little Step Up, weaving stories through the art of dance.
Atpa podi
It ultimately became a neck-and-neck battle between Sudash Rajivan from Kilinochchi in the north and Katuana Sando from the south. Based on the public SMS votes, Katuana Sando was crowned the champion of Sri Lanka's Got Talent Season 3. However, the moment that truly touched the hearts of the nation and brought tears of brotherhood to many eyes was how Katuana Sando chose to share his victory with his fellow competitor Sudash Rajivan. The event was graced by Group Director and CEO of the Capital Maharaja Group, Suresh Srinivasan, Group Director of the Capital Maharaja Group, Siobhan Daniel, and CEO of MTV Channel Private Limited, Yasadat Kamal Siri. We must create spaces for the next level people of Sri Lanka to express their talents and feelings. By doing so, within a
Dharma Yuddha 2 became the highest grossing film in Sri Lankan cinema history based solely on domestic ticket sales. It achieved this feat by surpassing the 500 million rupee milestone.
Dharma Yuddha 2 began its island-wide screenings on the 23rd of January 2026. Within just the first days of its release, the film managed to earn a record-breaking 100 million rupees. Maintaining intense audience attraction from the very beginning, Dharma Yuddha 2 continued to pull in an additional 100 million rupees every 10 days thereafter. Consequently, within just 50 days, the film has succeeded in redefining the history of Sri Lankan cinema. Dharma Yuddha 2 has become the first and only film in the country to earn 500 million rupees from local ticket sales alone in such a short period of 50 days.
Being able to surpass the 500 million rupee milestone is a matter of great joy and immense pride for us as the Sirasa Media Network. However, we have always believed that once we establish this foundation, our true wish is for everyone else in the industry to have the ability to go even further. We have now demonstrated to everyone that the Sri Lankan cinema industry indeed possesses the potential to exceed the 500 million rupee mark. If the Sri Lankan film industry is to move forward, we must all unite and work with this level of dedication. Through Dharma Yuddha, we have successfully prepared the background and set the stage for that future. Dharma Yuddha is more than just a movie. It is an auditorium, or rather a massive reservoir of fans. I believe that today, this audience has lifted the Sri Lankan cinema industry to its absolute peak. I am truly grateful to my team and to Sirasa for placing their trust in us and entrusting us with this project.
Dharma Yuddha 2 is rewriting history of Sri Lankan cinema by breaking almost every major record. It now holds the titles for the film with the highest number of screenings in a single day, the film with the highest single-day viewership, the film with the highest number of houseful shows in a single day, the highest single-day box office collection, the highest opening weekend revenue, the highest weekend viewership, the highest weekly revenue, and the domestic film screened in the highest number of countries. Dharma Yuddha 2 officially holds the record for the most milestones ever achieved by a single Sri Lankan production.
At the heart of all this success is you, our beloved audience. I want to extend my deepest gratitude to Director Aruna Javardhana and the entire crew. On behalf of everyone involved, I bow to you in respect for taking us towards this unparalleled milestone of 500 million rupees in just 50 days.
සිනමාවට නම පිබිදීමක් උද්‍යෝගයක් ප්‍රේක්ෂකාගාරය දෙතුන් සැරේ බලන මට්ටමටම ධර්ම යුද්ධයේ චිත්‍රපටයේ ආවා කියන්නෙම අපි හැමෝටම ඉතාමත් සතුටුයි. කඩේට ගියාම නිකන් මේ අත ගානවා ඇත්තට. එහෙම වෙයිලා අත ගානවා මිනිස්සු. ඒ කියන්නේ මෙහෙම කරන සයිස් එකට අර මිනිස්සු ආදරය කරන ඒ චිත්‍රපටිය ඒ කියන්නේ එච්චර නරඹලානේ. ඒ වගේ ගොඩක් වෙලාට ඒ ආදරේ අඩුයි ලැබෙනවා. ඒ කියන්නේ හැම චිත්‍රපටයක්ම මේ විදිහට දුවන්නේ නැහැනේ. මිනිස්සු වැළඳ ගන්න නැහැනේ.
We're completing 50 days for Dharma Yuddha too, and we're really grateful to all of you for watching our movie, coming to the cinemas, buying a ticket, recommending the movie to your friends and family. Thank you so much. I'm sure it's going to be one of the biggest movies this year. It has already exceeded 500 million. So thanks again. We're hoping to create more beautiful movies in the future. So let's keep this adventure going and the excitement going. Thank you again.
Dharma Yuddha 2 is currently being screened in numerous theatres across Los Angeles, USA and the United Kingdom, with many more countries scheduled for release in the near future. Dharma Yuddha 2 is the latest cinematic masterpiece gifted to the nation by the Sirasa family of the Maharaja Media Network. Filled with love, thrills, suspense and mystery, it is a movie that the entire family can experience together. Book your seats today. This is the moment Sri Lankan cinema makes history. Breaking every record ever set, the highest grossing film in Sri Lankan cinema. The first and only Sinhala movie to cross the 5,000 lakh milestone. Dharma Yuddha 2. More than 1 million viewers, 5,000 lakh in just 50 days. Thank you for the love you've given in millions. Come be part of history. Dharma Yuddha 2.
Welcome back to the news. India Week 2026 in Colombo featured forums on hospitality, youth, investment and CEOs, highlighting Indo-Sri Lankan ties. India Week 2026 continued today with a series of forums focusing on business, youth and hospitality. The day began with a hospitality forum where industry experts discussed innovations, trends and best practices in the hospitality sector, emphasizing collaboration between Sri Lanka and India. Next, the youth forum engaged young participants in discussions on the future of Indo-Sri Lankan relations, entrepreneurship and skills development.
The youth especially is facing an issue with the ability to have the skill. They have the skills, everybody has something that they're gifted with, but then the ability to bridge the gap with communication to actually apply their skill into applications. I think it is so important for the youth to know and realize that to be able to go to people, approach them, pitch your idea. I think that's the most important thing. The moment you put yourself in a situation where everybody knows what it is that you're pursuing, you are in a much better position. You're already 90% there, is what I really believe. So communicate, tell people, bring that message to life.
The Investor Forum followed, providing a platform for business leaders to explore opportunities and partnerships in the growing markets of both countries. The day concluded with a CEO Forum, where top executives shared insights on corporate strategies and cross-border business collaboration. India Week 2026 continues to showcase the cultural and commercial ties between India and Sri Lanka, with more events and discussions planned in the coming days. The CMA Career Guidance and Job Fair 2026 was held in Colombo yesterday to connect students and job seekers with leading companies across multiple sectors.
The Career Guidance and Job Fair 2026, organised by CMA Sri Lanka, was held in Colombo with the participation of students and job seekers with leading companies across banking, audit, IT, manufacturing and energy sectors. Professor Lakshman R. Watawala, past president of CA Sri Lanka, highlighted the importance of career guidance, professional qualifications and practical training for students and young professionals.
Career guidance is really one of the most important areas for a student. They should know in which direction that they should go. So for this exhibition, we have invited those who have have completed their, who have sat for the A-level, then also those who are after O-level, who can also get to know what they should do, and graduates and undergraduates, and also the firms that are having maybe staff with experience. We are able to give them scholarship, those who have done extremely well, those who really have difficulty in the financial area. This would be the first career guidance exhibition and job fair that we are having, and I'm sure that all students who are here, there will be large numbers, almost 600 who have already registered.
The fair also offered mentoring, scholarships and opportunities to meet industry leaders under one roof.
And with that, we wrap up Prime Time News for tonight. Thank you for watching. Good night.